Welcome to Studio CAG, our bi monthly podcast to bring you news, stories, and opinions on those subjects that matter the most to you as a consumer and a citizen. Our podcasts cover a variety of topics, from zero waste lifestyles to consumer protection to food and safe nutrition. Our aim is this, that these conversations will help you be aware of how the world is changing around us and how you can be a positive part of this change. Have you ever driven around on Indian roads? If you've not driven yourself, surely you've been a passenger or a pedestrian or a pillion rider. It's not unusual then that you would have come across speeding drivers. A bike, a car, even a lorry being driven at high speeds and dangerously. Or maybe you are that speeding driver. According to the Road Accidents in India 2020 report, 69% of road fatalities in India have been attributed to speeding. This then raises a range of questions. What is a safe speed? How do we arrive at safe speeds? And what happens when you break these safe speed limits? Today we have with us Varsha and Sumana, both working on CAG's road safety project, and we are going to ask them these questions. Sumana, can you tell us what the actual speed limit allowed on Indian roads is? You'd think that as road users, we should all be aware of this, but actually, you can ride around on Chennai's roads, and I'm sure this applies to vast parts of the country that you can actually ride around, use these roads, and never actually come upon a speed sign. So, what is the actual speed limit that's allowed on Indian roads? And also, why is it dangerous to go over these limits?
So speed limits vary from state to state, but of course nationally we have sort of broad guidelines that the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways has set. So it sets these maximum speed limits for different road categories, expressways, national highways, and so on, based on different types of vehicles which use those roads. In Tamil Nadu also we have very specific speed limits according to the type of vehicle and time of day for the urban areas. For example, cars, and two-wheelers have a speed limit of 40 kmph during the day and 50 kmph at night. So for each category and time of day there are speed limits. But the thing is that roads are getting better, the quality of the roads, the infrastructure in that sense is getting better, and the capacity of the vehicle, in terms of design speed, is getting higher. But unfortunately, what is happening is that the road design and the planning is not factoring this in terms of safety. So we're only looking at speed and moving vehicles quickly, but we're not looking at, is everybody on the road safe? So there is a problem of we have mixed traffic. So vehicles of different speeds are in the same space. You have poor road sense and poor behavior from road users, and you have overall a very poor enforcement because it's really hard for the police to catch everyone all the time. And very importantly, our driving test procedures are extremely rudimentary and inadequate. So all this combined is really why we have such a huge amount of fatalities in the country. And unfortunately now the government is looking to ease the speed limits, that is, make it from 100 to 120 and higher. While you look at it globally, countries are actually looking to tighten up speed limits and reduce it and say that you have to drive slower because it's safer for everyone. The UN has been on this theme of slow down, that especially in urban areas, you need to keep limit to 30. And they've also, research has shown that even a small 5% reduction in speed can have a big impact in reducing the amount of fatality that results from speeding.
So, Varsha, could you tell us this? So, Sumana just explained what the speed limits on roads were and why or how they have been arrived at. Now, let's assume that I'm driving or riding on a road that's 30 kilometers an hour. And, the road looks empty and maybe I'm in a bit of a hurry. So, I'm not going to break the law by a huge amount. Instead of 30, I'm just going to drive at, say, 33 or 34 kilometers an hour. Now, is there a problem with this? And this sort of casual speeding, I think nearly all of us are guilty of this at some point or the other. What happens when we do this?
A speed limit means the maximum speed one can operate on roads. That is why it's called a limit. Most often we forget that. And also, knowing a bit of physics behind road crashes can help us understand better the seriousness of casual speeding. What we consider as small increases in speed results in larger stopping distances, which means your braking distance increases. This leaves the driver with very less time to react or to avoid a collision. We have scientific evidence from the WHO which states that an increase in speed of 1 kilometer per hour, which is often considered negligible by most drivers, results in a 3% higher risk of road crash with injuries and a 4 to 5% increased risk of a fatal crash. Ultimately, the speed of the vehicle dictates whether or not a driver will be able to stop in time to avoid a crash. If they cannot stop, then the impact when they crash is going to determine if it results in a death or a grievous injury. Therefore, it's very important to remember that higher the speed, the likelihood of death is more. And this has to be hammered into the minds of our drivers. By speeding, you are not only putting your own life at stake, but also the lives of your fellow road users. Therefore, it's high time that drivers get serious about casual speeding.
So, Sumana, as we are talking about speeding, I think a lot of us would like to understand how speed limits are set. So, what are the factors that they are considering? I'm guessing experts are involved in this, and they must be looking at certain parameters that help them set the speed limit that is safe for a certain road. So, how do they go about this?
So, from our conversations with government officials, we understand that speed limits are largely set in Tamil Nadu from their knowledge and experience of the ground reality, which of course is very vast. Having doing this on a daily basis, they know what happens in on the road. But ideally, we also need to have scientific parameters, and that should focus on ensuring that the speed limit is based on everybody's safety, whether you're cycling or walking or driving a car or a big truck. Everybody on the road should be safe, and that should be the fundamental underlying concept on which your speed limit is set. Now in India, typically our roads have a lot of different kinds of users at the same time. You have people walking, you have animals, you have cyclists, you have huge cars and trucks. So how do you ensure that it's safe for everybody? And so that is why, in a lot of countries, they are now moving to a 30 kmph speed limit, because that will cause maybe minor accidents but unlikely to actually kill anybody. I mean, if you get hit at 30 kmph or less, you might have some injuries, but unlikely that there will be death. So we also need something called a safe systems approach, which basically is this global vision that talks of having safe vehicles, safe roads, and safe road users. So the idea is that you design and engineer roads which minimize the risk of serious injury and death. And what that entails would be like having an optimized carriage width, proper lane markings, ensuring safe segregated space for pedestrians and cyclists, and also as a design that sort of encourages motorists to stay within the speed limit. So this could be through speed breakers, it could be through narrowing the road, or having, these sort of in between median spaces which kind of reduce the carriage width. So all of this is very important. And finally, what is really important in the Indian context is also that we need a lot more visible enforcement within the restrictions that the police have of resources available. So for that, globally, the preferred way of doing this is what is called an anytime anywhere approach, which basically means that as a road user, as a motorist, I might get checked for anything, whether it's just having my license and papers, or for drunk driving breathalyzer test at any time of the day or night, and anywhere on any type of road. It's not predetermined. Now, typically in India, what happens is the police will do drives which will run for 10 days or so on a specific topic. And typically, drunk driving tests will be on the weekends, where they expect more people to be, out socializing. Instead of this, in many countries, you might even get checked on your way to work at 9 in the morning. It's just a way to reinforce the fact in the public's, consciousness that this could happen to me anytime, so I should always be obeying the law. So, just to underline that. So that is the anytime, anywhere strategy.
So we know how speed limits are set. We know why it's important to keep these. But are there ways in which we can manage speed on Indian roads? So, what are the things that we can do to discourage speeding? Are the best practices and measures that have proved successful in this regard so far?
When it comes to best practices in speed management, we have recently had quite a few interesting and positive observations from the speeding surveys conducted by CAG across various arterials in Chennai city. One of the examples I would like to quote is that of the East Coast Road in Akkarai, wherein the usage of speed cameras, automatic number plate recognition cameras, and vehicle actuated speed signs, wherein the real time speed of vehicles are displayed as and when they pass by, have had a significant impact in reducing speeding in that stretch. So these measures automatically generate challans in case of any violation, and have proven not only to be useful in Chennai but also across Delhi, Maharashtra, Hyderabad, therefore highlighting the fact that the usage of technology in enforcement has reaped fair results. Another example would be that of Harrington Road in Nungambakam, wherein behavioral changes have been induced in motorists largely through infrastructural changes. So these design and infrastructural changes include an optimized carriage width, improved pedestrian infrastructure, well maintained footpaths, appropriate road markings, pedestrian crossings, appropriately placed signages, speed limit warnings, and a designated school zone. So, all these context sensitive design measures have encouraged users to adopt lower speeds while driving, thereby reducing the risk of road crashes. So these examples can be considered as best practices and scaled up across the state to manage speed effectively.
We spoke to a couple of road users and we asked them three questions. Do they know the speed limit of the roads that they are using? Have they ever received a ticket for speeding? And have they ever been guilty of speeding? Shall we hear from them now?
Speed limit in Chennai, I think, is 60. Um, Ticket for speeding, not in Chennai. In Bangalore, yes. Do I speed? Yes, I do.
Do you know what the speed limit is in Chennai? No, I don't know the speed limit in Chennai, but I maintain around 50 to 55. I have seen few signboards in the main roads like near Germany Flyover or Anna Sale. That's it. Have you ever received a ticket for speeding? No, I haven't received any ticket for speeding. Do you speed? Based on the road? If it's going to be empty, if it's going to be like early morning ride or something like that, then yes. Then again, but the maximum speed limit is 60 or 65. That's it.
been in the news recently that for traffic rule violations, we are now in Tamil Nadu going to pay a lot more. So the fines have been revised and they have gone up substantially. So, can you tell us, Suman, about why they have chosen to do this? And also, do you think this is actually going to help with solving the speed problem?
Yes, recently in October 2022, the Tamil Nadu government has increased the penalties for, like, as you said, a range of violations, including speeding. So these are actually long overdue because it brings the state in line with the national legislation, the Motor Vehicles Amendment Act of 2019, which increased penalties considerably. So finally, Tamil Nadu has adopted these. And this is a good move because the idea is that this will act as a deterrent that, basically once bitten, twice shy. If you are once fined 1,000 rupees for not wearing a helmet, you'd have hopefully learnt your lesson and would start following the law. So similarly on speeding, on drunk driving, and so on and so forth. So this is an excellent move which is much needed, and hopefully we will see its impact in a reduction in people violating the law, and in terms of fatalities and accidents which happen.
Thank you, listeners, for joining us today. That is all we have the time for now. But if you like this podcast, don't forget to subscribe. Follow us on our social media platforms. We are on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find us by our handle CAG Chennai. If you have any questions about our work or what you heard just now, do write into us at helpdesk@cag.org.in. We'd love to hear from you. Goodbye for now, stay safe, and we'll see you again soon.